Chapter 8 of Management, an Integrated Approach. Organizational Culture. Part 4. Artifacts. Artifacts are visible organizational structures, processes, and languages. The most visible level of culture is a company's artifacts, which include all the phenomena that one sees, hears, and feels when one encounters a new group with an unfamiliar culture. Artifacts include the visible products of the group, its language, its technology, its artistic creations, its style, its published lists of values, its observable rituals and ceremonies, as in the above example. This visible level of an organization's culture is deceptively easy to identify. It is fairly simple to note what artifacts are present in a company, and how they are put into practice. It is another thing altogether to understand the reasons why those artifacts exist. When you enter an organization's headquarters, for example, you may notice the layout of the offices, how people are dressed, and other physical symbols like the logo or a poster outlining the company values. These are all visible artifacts that communicate some sense of an organization's culture, beliefs, and values. Beyond artifacts, culture is created in a group setting from the beliefs and values that members bring to the table or that a group learns together. Generally, these beliefs and values are the meanings that members of an organization attach to artifacts. An organization's beliefs and values drive what is considered important in the organization. As we will see, organizational values sometimes originate from the founder and are passed along as others join the company. In some instances, they take the form of a formal statement, and in other cases, they are communicated formally or informally from one generation of employees to the next. Assumptions. Lurking beneath a company's articulated beliefs and values are a group's underlying assumptions. An assumption was once a behavior that stemmed from a belief held by a group. When that behavior successfully solved the problem it was addressing, it set a precedent for all future iterations of that problem. Once a behavior has become an assumption, unlike beliefs or values, it is no longer visible. Rather, it is intrinsic, instinctive, and unconscious. In essence, it becomes deeply embedded in the organization. When joining a new company, the greatest temptation of managers and employees is to note the artifacts of a culture, the physical layout and quality of an office space, for instance, and jump immediately to evaluation. This is a good culture, or this is a bad culture. Artifacts are deceptive, however. They cannot be evaluated in isolation, but must be attached to their roots. You have to look behind the artifacts to really understand the culture. Otherwise, managers can wind up as misguided as Carly Fiorina, CEO of Ch.8part4 HP, who professed the HP way, but failed to really understand it. Hewlett-Packard. Few organizations have had a more pronounced culture than HP. The company's founders focused their business model on profit and people, and were famous for the culture that became known as the HP way. This company culture included a focus on profits more than revenue growth, teamwork, open-door management, full employment, egalitarian pay practices, and flexible work hours. By 2000, HP had grown to become one of the top technology companies in the world, and the HP way had led the company onto Fortune's list of 100 best companies to work for. In the mid-1990s, HP had become a market leader in both printers and Unix computers, and a rising force in PCs. Consistent growth brought new challenges for the company, and the retirement of both founders by 1993 placed a new leader, Lou Platt, in charge of the company. Platt was a firm believer in the HP way, but some thought he lacked the tough business edge that both founders possessed. Platt recognized the need for change, and, with the strategic guidance of McKinsey & Company, HP spun off its instrument and related businesses to focus on printers and computers. The spin-off company became Agilent Technologies. Despite this change, the company continued to struggle in the late 1990s to meet its profit goals, and the board began to look for new leadership to help move the company forward. The board was looking for someone with charisma and ability to increase the company's profile, a marketing and sales background, and the strength to challenge the HP culture. Carly Fiorina had earned a strong reputation at Lucent Technologies, and she was hired to take HP in a new direction. Fiorina quickly began changing the culture of HP and rewriting the HP way. At a meeting 1 month after her arrival, she interrupted a division head discussing challenges by saying, "Let me make something very clear. You will make your numbers. There will be no excuses. And if you can't make your numbers, I will find someone who can." Fiorina also quickly brushed aside HP's egalitarian ideals by purchasing an executive jet. This was not unusual for many CEOs at the time, but it was in stark contrast to Lou Platt, who flew 200,000 miles annually in coach class on regular airlines. Despite these changes, Fire&A continued to emphasize the importance of the HP way and its continued influence on the company. Behind the scenes, however, Fire&A began to institute drastic strategic and organizational changes by focusing on selling solutions rather than products. Some employees and board members were resistant to these changes, but the most drastic change came with Fire&A's decision to acquire Compaq Computer Corporation. HP had rarely used acquisitions as a business strategy, but Fire&A believed that combining forces with Compaq would give HP the ability to compete with rival IBM. The acquisition was met with great opposition by David Packard, son of the co-founder, who sat on the company's board of directors. After the merger, Packard filed a lawsuit against Fire&A for attempting to deceive shareholders, but the case was dismissed. The results of the acquisition were mixed. The new company was able to cut costs by $3.5 billion and headcount by almost 20,000. While HP retained its competitiveness in the printer area, it did not improve significantly in its sales of personal computers, PCs. The area of greatest change after the acquisition was that of culture. The company that was once known for being employee-centric, even in the pursuit of profitability, had lost its way. More than half of HP's employees after 2003 had worked there fewer than 5 years, and when HP applied for Fortune's list of 100 best businesses to work for in 2003, it did not rank. In addition, an HP internal memo indicated that employees gave low marks on management credibility, respect, and fairness. How does culture develop? Culture begins to develop quickly in any group of people as they spontaneously interact with each other and establish norms of behavior. In many organizations, the backbone of culture begins with its founder. A founder usually comes to his or her organization with a strong set of assumptions, based on previous experiences, and infuses them into the group. Often it was these ideas that sparked the founder's desire to create something new. For example, Home Depot's original founders built their organization on the idea of serving the customer above all else. This affected how they divvied out resources and structured their stores, but also how they interacted with customers. When Bob Nardelli took over as CEO of Home Depot, he tried to radically change the entrepreneurial, customer-facing culture with one focused on top-down driven operational performance. The result was a cultural disconnection, and Nardelli was soon replaced as CEO. Role of founders. Founders have a variety of ways in which they embed a particular culture into their organization and exert their influence, including the following: their capacity to absorb the anxiety associated with risk. Because they take the most risk, they also have the strongest belief in what the company is doing and, in times of stress, can ease the pressure employees may feel. Their capacity to make assumptions stick. They can insist on decisions that aren't in the company's financial interest but that uphold cultural values. In allowing values to trump economics, founders can have a strong influence on a company's culture and what is valued in the organization. In the early days of Apple Computer, Steve Jobs pursued many paths that were deemed financially imprudent in his search for a new path to personal computing. Their encouragement of innovation. A founder is the only person who can make risky decisions and who isn't accountable to anyone. Therefore, founders are uniquely situated to be innovative and to model innovation for their employees. Cisco's culture, for example, started with Sandy Lerner and Leonard Bosek's focus on the customer. From the beginning, they worked to infuse their own set of beliefs into their business. Based on their experiences, they believed that the customer was the key to success. The challenge, of course, is to keep the culture alive long after the founders are gone, and this is something that subsequent leadership at Cisco has worked hard to do. When he became CEO of Southwest Airlines, Herb Kelleher infused the company with a strong culture of humor and fun. While Southwest's strategy is built on the premise of providing low-cost point-to-point air travel, it does so in a culture characterized by a sense of humor and ongoing excitement. A fun culture does not mean that employees at Southwest do not work hard. On the contrary, they work harder than most other airline employees to help the firm provide the lowest cost airfare. Employees are hired based on their ability to fit into this fun, service-oriented culture. Role of organizational leaders. By the nature of their role in the organization, leaders are held responsible for results. They also significantly influence the manner in which those results are achieved as well as the values that are upheld. Employees at all levels look to leaders for guidance about what is important, what is measured, and what is rewarded in the organization. Given that employees look to leaders for clues about appropriate behavior, leaders at all levels in an organization must comprehend the implications of what they say and do. In other words, as role models, leaders must be vigilant that their actions do not result in adverse consequences. The leaders of an organization often have the responsibility to ensure that the culture reinforces positive behavior. A leader can use culture to impact performance in a multiplicity of ways. For starters, they can hold employees in the organization to high standards and use public forums to reward exceptional behavior. In addition, leaders can play a key role in reinforcing a company's culture by ensuring that the firm's vision and direction are aligned with the changing contextual environment. In a study of companies that have been successful over a long period of time, the following aspects of a leader's role in relation to culture were deemed critically important: inspire all managers and employees to do their best, empower employees and managers to make independent decisions and to find ways to improve operations, reward achievement with pay based on performance and continue raising the bar, reward achievement with non-pay perks such as new assignments and employee recognition, create a challenging work environment, establish and abide by a clear set of values. Role of teams. As we have seen throughout this chapter, an organization's culture can be profoundly shaped by its founders and by its formative experiences. However, culture is rarely static and usually continuously changes. Some would say that an organization's culture is being reinvented and reshaped on an ongoing basis as its leaders and employees take actions and make decisions. In this way, culture can be an emergent phenomenon, one that bubbles up from the way individuals interact and operate with each other. These interactions eventually become part of the organization's shared beliefs and values. Teams directly impact culture by the manner in which they encounter big problems, solve them, and perceive the effects of their solutions. Early in its existence, every organization encounters some problem and has to come together, make decisions, and find a solution. If the solution is unsuccessful, the company will likely find a different way to do things the next time a similar problem crops up. If the solution is successful, however, the company will probably choose to do things the same way the next time, and the next time, and the next time. In doing so, they create organizational routines that are reapplied on an ongoing basis. At some point in the organization's history, however, people stop asking how they are going to solve a particular problem and apply that routine. The solution becomes unconscious and is, therefore, no longer debatable. Neither is the process for making this decision nor the priorities that have developed as a result. This is the birth of a group or team-based culture. Even a course of action prescribed by a founder has to be tried and tested by employees before it becomes an integral part of an organization's culture. Cultural socialization. So how are cultural elements embedded? How do new employees become assimilated in the culture of an organization? A company has many tools at its disposal for embedding culture. For instance, all Toyota team members attend culture training when hired. During their first year with United Parcel Service (UPS), new managers are required to work in various parts of the business, including sorting and delivering packages. This process of understanding how work gets done and how individuals should interact is called socialization. The process of cultural socialization can take the following forms: formal statements of philosophy, creeds, and values. Google, for example, has sketched out its culture in various documents, including a cover letter attached to the company's initial public offering prospectus, and an operating philosophy called 10 Things. Google is not a conventional company. The cover letter reads, "We do not intend to become one." The operating philosophy lists the company's values, including you can be serious without a suit and you don't need to be at your desk to need an answer. Design of physical spaces. The feeling that is conveyed in a group by the physical layout and the way in which members of the organization interact with each other, with customers, or with other outsiders can convey an important message about the culture. When Google's founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, moved their growing company into its new headquarters in Mountain View, California, they called it the Googleplex. They also began establishing a set of values and characteristics they called being googly. At the Googleplex, Googleism first took the form of an informal atmosphere where pets were allowed and exercise balls doubled as office chairs. Video games and football tables lined hallways. The informal setting of the Googleplex was an important element in building Google's culture. Megan Smith, former vice president of new business development, said Google executives have put a great deal of thought into our physical campus. Areas are created for cross-pollination. We want people from different functions and groups to interact with each other. In this way, the organization seeks to orchestrate serendipitous interactions among its employees that may, in turn, spawn new ideas and foster greater collaboration. Laszlo Bock, senior vice president of people operations, says that Google pays careful attention to the all workspaces. For instance, the company measures the length of cafeteria lines to make sure that people have to wait a while, optimally 3 to 4 minutes, and have time to talk. It makes people sit at long tables, where they are likelier to be next to or across from someone that don't know, and it puts those tables a little too close together so you might hit someone when you push your chair back. The Google bump. Employees call it. Google management's painstaking care of the company's physical atmosphere illustrates how seriously it takes its culture. Role modeling, leader examples, teaching, and coaching. Managers at Google want their employees to be innovative. They themselves have been innovative in the ways they encourage company values. One example of managerial innovation is the 80/20 policy, which the company endorsed from 2007 to 2013. Technical employees at Google could spend 20% of their time on projects of their own choosing. Employees reported on how they used this time and were judged by the results they achieved. Gmail, AdSense, and Google Maps all found their beginnings in this 20% arena. While this program produced some impressive new products, the company sought to make the focus on innovation a core part of every employee's job. Today's leaders at Google want employees to be thinking about new ideas and innovation 100% of the time, not just 20%. Role modeling was also an important driver for Jeff Charney when he joined Progressive Insurance as the chief marketing officer. Charney grabbed empty beer bottles with labels that read complacency, gossip, and ME, and smashed them with a bat. This dramatic act set a new tone for the marketing team, one that was focused on collaboration and teamwork, not infighting and turf protection. Reward systems and norms. Behaviors that are rewarded and recognized are key clues to what is deemed important in an organization. AdSense, a division of Google, hosts an idea contest every quarter. In addition, managers give out recognition awards for employees' ideas that speed up work processes, a tactic that also supports a company value. Fast is better than slow. By competing for these rewards, employees learn quickly what is valued: innovation and speed. Stories, legends, myths, and parables. Again, Google provides a prime example of the power of stories to influence culture. A story about one of the founders circulates throughout Google. There's a story about how a senior executive made a big mistake that cost several $1 million, but Google founder Larry Page told her he was happy she made the mistake, because if they are not making mistakes, they are not taking enough risks. They would rather she make a mistake in moving too fast than make no mistakes in moving too slow. This story is told throughout the company to encourage the culture of risk-taking. The fact that it is passed around indicates its usefulness in teaching culture to team members. What do leaders pay attention to, measure, and control? Ben, of Ben and Jerry's, cultivated a culture that employees often described as caring capitalism. These company values were brought home to employees in part through the things executives measured. For instance, the company's year-end reports tracked economic gain, but they also tracked how much the company had done for society that year. These policies have had the added benefit of attracting employees whose personal values are consistent with the company's values of corporate social responsibility. Leader reactions to critical incidents and crises. When a downturn in the market required major cutbacks and downsizing, Toyota cut everything but people. It refused to fire employees in spite of criticism and a general belief in the business world that it was making a poor economic decision. This response to crisis taught employees how much the company believed in its widely evangelized aphorism, "People are the most significant corporate investment." Other companies that profess that people are their most valuable asset often engage in layoffs when times are tough. Employees learn the real culture of an organization during difficult times. Design of the organization. Cisco's Customer Advocacy Division is a good example of how the design of an organization influences culture. The customer being a professed value is built into the company's structure through the creation of a dedicated organizational unit with a mandate to be the advocate of the customer inside the organization. criteria for recruiting, selecting, promoting, and managing employees, special competences displayed by group members in accomplishing certain tasks are clues to what is valued in a particular culture. Google takes great care in who it hires. Laszlo Bock, Senior Vice President of People Operations, said, "There are many smart people that don't get hired because they don't fit culturally with the organization." Google's hiring executives determine a person's cultural fit by assessing candidates for general cognitive ability who have initiative, flexibility, collaborative spirit, and evidence of being well-rounded. With this kind of human resources, managers at Google believe their people are well-intentioned, curious, and aware, and most have the capacity to self-govern with the help of their peers. In other words, they believe the people they hire, using the process they have in place, are more likely to fit with and contribute to the culture. As you review the various ways in which individuals become socialized in an organization, it may become apparent that culture is determined by a few key factors, including the people who work at the company, skills and attitudes, the manner in which the company is structured, formal organization, the nature of the work that needs to be performed, task requirements, and the role of the leader. All of these elements operate in a particular context to set the stage for the development of culture. See Figure 8.2. Many of these factors are interrelated and influence one another. Over time, the process of cultural socialization can lead to a stronger level of employee commitment. The process by which organizational commitment is achieved typically evolves over 3 stages, from compliance to identification to internalization. See Figure 8.3. Organizational commitment is the desired end result of socialization, whereby employees become committed to the organization and its goals. An internalized culture can lead to stronger overall performance as employees feel like owners of the firm. As such, they are willing to go above and beyond to ensure that the firm delivers on its commitments to customers as well as other employees. Culture and crucial moments.